Today's story is entitled The Office. My name is James, and I started working in a law firm 2 years ago. It was 3 blocks from the central square of the capital city. Now it's located in the west of the city. I work in their systems department. My first year in the studio, I spent one of the worst winter nights of my life. I remember that it was a Monday night. The lawyers started to leave the office relatively early, and by around 9 p.m., I was the only one left in the building. Since my job is to fix bugs, address system errors, update software, and install programs, among other things, I do my work when no one is using the computers, which is usually at night. That particular night, I was installing programs on the server, and since my work week had just started, I was wide awake and attentive to my work. It was just after 9:30 p.m. I heard a noise. In this studio, there were 2 offices, 1 bathroom, and a small entrance hall. Nothing more than that. I was in the front office. Passing by my office, there was a break area, and then further down, another office that was locked. The noise I had heard sounded like it was coming from the locked back office. I stopped working and got up from my desk. I walked to turn on the light in the break area, and there was no one. I went back to my office and looked at the server to see if there were any computers on, and found that, aside from mine, there was a computer on in the back office. The one that was empty and locked. My first thought was that somebody must still be inside the office. So I went back out into the hall and approached the office door. Behind the glass of the door, I could see that somebody was sitting in front of a computer, the second computer appearing on my network. So I made my way back to my desk, grabbed my keyring, and returned to the locked door. Maybe somebody fell asleep at their desk or something. I didn't know what to think exactly. I opened the door, and the office was empty, except for a single computer on. I looked around to make sure everything was in place, checked to make sure nothing had fallen or loose cables, and to my uneasiness, I saw that everything was in perfect order. So I turned off the computer. I left the office and locked the door behind me, thinking that I must just be confused. So I went back to my office to continue my work for the night. It had probably only been about 15 minutes when I felt something. It grabbed my shoe and pulled it. I shook my leg hard, bent down to look under my desk, and lo and behold, there was nothing. At that moment, I froze. I knew something supernatural was happening, and despite the growing fear that I felt, I continued my work. Fear turned into dizziness when I noticed on my screen that the computer that I knew I had just turned off a few minutes ago was back on. And to make matters worse, I heard the same noise coming from the back office once again. The back office, the one that I had just checked and locked. This time I decided to ignore it. An hour had passed and I began to calm down, thinking maybe it was all over with. I would remember this night as the worst of my life. My still uneasy nerves made me want to go to the bathroom, so I stopped with my work. I left my desk and entered the break area, and from there, I could barely see the light in the bathroom was already on, waiting for me. I felt like crying. I turned around and went back to my desk to put everything away and leave. Just leave. As I walked towards my office, the reflection of the bathroom light went off, and I felt the bathroom door close. I swear that I thought I would go crazy over everything that was going on that night. After returning to my desk, I put away all my stuff, turned off my computer, and grabbed the keys to the studio. Before leaving the studio, I had to lower the electric keys from the place, and as I was lowering the keys, a cold chill ran down my back and my legs began to tremble because someone began touching my hair from behind. Tears began to fall from the terror I felt as I sat for a moment on the floor with barely enough strength to stand up and walk. I managed to leave the study. The entrance door of the studio has 3 locks, one on top, one in the middle, and one on the bottom. I just needed to turn the bottom key and Being crouched down, I felt footsteps behind the door as if someone was in a hurry on the other side, waiting for me to open it back up. As soon as I finished locking the door, I left that place as fast as I could. The next day, I came back when the studio was already open. I went in early to speak personally with my boss and let him know why I didn't finish my work the previous night and everything else that had happened to me. My boss paid attention to everything I said, however, he was not convinced. He asked me to finish in the afternoon during my normal maintenance schedule. I begged him to allow me to finish everything now. I couldn't do it alone another night. On Friday, the following week, it was my boss who stayed working overtime in the studio, specifically in that back office. As soon as night fell, the office was empty, and after 9:30 p.m., all the lights went out. He told me he went directly to the light switchboard to turn them back on and was only a few feet away from the panel. The keys go up and the lights return to the study. He turned to go back to his office and watched as a man sitting at his desk stood up, left the office, closed the door, and was lost in the darkness of the bathroom. In his own words, he said, "Thank God at that time I had the keys to the study in my pocket. All I wanted to do was leave that place." Also at that time, many of the lawyers that work there couldn't find their things where they left them, and this was a hot topic of conversation. Months later, we changed buildings, and now I work my usual schedule from the afternoon to through the night. I recently found out that an architectural firm is working in our old offices now, and from what I'm hearing, those sinister things keep happening there as well. All of this happened in Guanajuato, Mexico.